Hey everyone, this is alexusadays and we're continuing Playwright QA automation. And today we're going to talk about page object model. We are in module 9, and after that we're going to go in module 10. That will be the last one. Now, today we're going to talk about page object model, for short POM. The page object model is a way to organize your test code. It helps you manage the interactions with your web page in an organized and reusable way. Instead of writing all your test steps directly in your test files, you create a separate class that represents each page of your application. When creating POM framework, try to balance two principles. Dry, don't repeat yourself, concept and software development that aims to reduce repetition of code, and KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Philosophy that emphasizes simplicity in design and implementation. The idea is to avoid unnecessary complexity and aim for easy to understand solutions. Here are the main benefits of project using POM. It's easier to read, it keeps your test code clean and easy to understand. Reusability. You can reuse code for interacting with the same page across multiple tests. Maintainability. If something changes on the page, you only need to update it in one place. So let's understand the project structure we're going to implement for the POM. We will open a new directory, and that's going to be our root directory. Within that, we will have pages folder, and in pages folder, we'll have 4 files. Login page for our login, that's going to have a login object. We're going to have secure page, the page that we get to after we log in. That's going to have a secure page object. We will have checkboxes page, just one more example with the checkboxes object. And we will have a file called POM manager. It's going to contain object where you import all other objects for the ease of use. Then we will have our test folder with example of the tests based on the POM. And then we will have utils folder. In utils, we will have another object where we'll have common functions. So those functions will be used in the pages, like clicking, opening things up, and so on. And visual is going to look like this. So you initiate your common actions. One of them would be, let's say, go on a page, right? So you start in common actions that get imported in all of the pages. So those pages can use those common actions. Then the pages themselves are imported in POM manager file, so you don't have to import all of those pages separately in each test file. And then in your test file, you just import POM manager, where you can reach to the login, to the secure page, and all other pages. So essentially, your core functionalities that are generic will be in common actions object. That will be used in all of the different pages, and you will have an object per page. Within the pages themselves, you will have functions related specifically to that pages. Then you have a POM manager that groups everything together, and in your test files, you just import POM manager and you create test cases. Okay, so let's get into the code. And for this example, we're going to go to the form authentication. We will log in. Once we log in, we get to a secure page, and we will verify that we are on the secure page. So something that we already did without page object model. The main difference will be that we will be using page object model today. And after we do secure page, we'll also go ahead and go into checkboxes and verify that we were actually able to click and make a checkbox checked. Okay, so in our project, everything is still going to be visible in Git, but we will create a project within a project. So we have a clear distinguished example with page object model implementation only. Okay, so I'm going to go and close everything that we have opened, and in this folder I'm just going to create new folder, and I will call it POM example, right? So this is our POM framework essentially. Now here in terminal, I need to navigate into this folder. So I will say cd POM example. Let's clear it out. And if I do pwd, you see the path, I'm inside POM example folder. So here we need to start with the basics, and that would be we need to initialize another Playwright project within, right? So for a better visibility, I can also go say open folder and go into POM example, so newly created folder. So I'm just inside of here. I don't have anything else to distract me. I'm just creating kind of a new project within a project, but from scratch. Okay, let's open up the console. And first we need to install Playwright. So we need to do npm init Playwright at latest, right? So this will initialize the whole Playwright project for us. Okay, need to install file and packages. Okay, to proceed, we're gonna do it in JavaScript. We're gonna have our tests in tests folder. No GitHub action needed. Install browsers and everything for the project. Yes, let's do it. Okay, so we initialized our brand new Playwright project. It's still installing some of the stuff. All right, so it is installed. I'm going to clear out the console. So let me delete the test examples. Yeah, we don't want it. Let's start with creating our project structure. So our test is going to be in the test folder. Let's create pages, right? So within the pages folder, we will have all the pages that we need to interact with. Then we're going to have a new folder called utils. So here I will place another object that is not page specific, but just most common used functions, right? All right. And let's delete our example test and create our POM tests. POM tests.spec.js. Okay, so our first test file. So normally we would start going and interacting with the page directly right away. And the first step would be to go to a page. But go to a page is actually a very generic step, so probably we can place it in the utils. And for that, we need to create a file here. So I'm going to create a file and call it common actions.js, right? And we have it open. So first thing, we need to create an object, and we want to export that object. So export default class common actions. Well, actually it is class. So what is a class? Class is like a blueprint, a prototype for an object. You can create an object from the class. It just tells you what's in it, and you will see as we go how it is implemented. One thing that you want to add here is a constructor that accepts page, and then it will say this.page equals page. So what will happen every time we go with the common actions, we will pass the page inside, right? And this page, whenever the common action is initialized, so you create a new object out of this class, you will say like new common actions, this page is created with the new object. So this allows initialization of the page, and the page becomes available to all the functions that will be within the new object that will be created out of this class. And as we move through it, it's going to get a little bit clearer if you don't understand what I'm talking about right now. All right, so we'll have our first function here, asynchronous navigate, and it accepts a URL parameter, right? And what do we do to navigate in Playwright? So we actually just say go to page.goto, and then we'll provide URL here. So whenever this is called, it will just use the Playwright code to navigate to specific URL provided to this function. Because this is going to be our entry point into a web page, let's add here a comment, a pause. So whenever you uncomment this, you'll be able to pause your code and kind of step through it to see what's going on. Okay, so navigate is here. What is the other like most common thing? Well, clicking on something, right? So let's create a function called click. This function will accept a selector, and then within it we will have a wait. So this dot page dot click, and again we provide a selector to the function what it should click on, right? Okay, so the next one, the common one, that you fill out some values. So async fill, again you need to provide selector, and the other parameter you want to provide whatever you're going to be filling it with, right? So some text. And here we have to say await this dot page dot fill, and we're providing again locator where we're going to find it, and then the text that we'll be filling in. Okay, what else? Let's also add here a function where we get text. So we found an element, we want to grab text within this element, right? So it will return a value. So await this dot page dot text context. So if there is a text value within the locator, within the selector, this function will return it back to whatever place called it. Okay, so return away this page dot context selector. Okay, that's good. And the last one, let's add it for a check mark, right? So sync is checked. Again, we provide selector, and here we will await this page is checked selector. So this is name of our function is checked. This is just the Playwright code. So this is a text context is checked fill. This is all comes from the Playwright. We all know it. We kind of wrap it inside our function that we will be calling somewhere else, some other place. Okay, so our common actions are done. Now, what else would we need? Well, we will need a page or pages that will use all those common actions. So the first page that we're going to create will be a login page. So again, with capital login page, since this is a class, page.js. Okay. Now here we need to import some things that we will be using. I will add an assertion within the page. Typically, this is considered not a great practice, but sometimes it might make your life easier to have assertion function built in. So just if you're going to be implementing this, be aware that some companies or some places might want you to have assertions only inside a test file here. But from my practice, sometimes it is good to help assertion if you pass along value in within the page itself, if it's like page specific stuff. All right, so for assertions, we want to import expect from our Playwright module, right? Okay, and what else we need to import here? Well, all the clicks, all the fills, everything, that would be coming from the common actions. So we want to say import common actions, and it auto completes it for me. I just want to add .js here. So it will go to this file and grab all of those functions, making them available like within this class, right? Okay, and the object itself now will be exported further, so we can use it in some other places, right? Like in tests. So we also need to start again, export, default, class, login page. So, okay. We will start again with the constructor that will have page, right? And then we will say a couple things here. So this dot actions equals new common actions, and we're passing page into it. So we're initializing a new object called this dot actions, and this just makes it available, initializes it and makes it available to the whole file. Now, this dot actions object comes from this class, like from this blueprint, right? So it will be available initialized here within the login page itself. All right. Now let's add our navigation here. So async, and we're creating another function, navigate, that will have inside this function, or we'll call it with some value, right? So let's say await this dot actions, right? This one, this object that we created, dot, and then when I press dot, you see I have different options here available, right? And one of them is navigate, this method, right? Navigate. And what do we need to navigate to a specific place according to this function that we created? Well, we need to provide the URL. So we need to provide here a link where it's going to go. In our case, that's going to be HTTPS, the internet.heroku app.com/login. Okay, so that's the place. So what would be a page specific here, the functionality that we can, the functions that we can create and later then call and test and use them? Well, one of them would be login, right? Because that's what we're doing here on the page. And now if we need to log in and reuse the login, we can just reach to the functions and we don't need to recreate it again and again and again, right? So right here, we just need to create a function that will go and fill out all this information and hit the login button, all within this method that then we will call in the test file. All right. So for login, we need two parameters. So we need username and we need password. And let's say, okay, so first we need this actions. What are we grabbing for this actions to fill out the information about the username? .fill, right? Actions.fill. So we're grabbing this method that uses the playwright.fill method, but still, we're grabbing this one. And within, we need to provide two values. So we need to provide first the locator, right? And locator for the login field is username. And then we need to provide a username that we will be using in test. So this function will accept, or this method will accept the username text, right? And it will populate it here and it will use this locator, and then it will get the name will get filled into the field on the web page. All right, so the next one is that this actions dot fill. Now here we need to fill password. So password is our locator for the field. So this guy, right? If we look at it, I mean, we already did it a couple of times. Inspect it. So hopefully you remember. So here's the ID password, right? That's what we're going to use. So hashtag, that means password. And we're also going to need to provide the actual password value that we're going to pass along. Okay, so after this is done, we need to click on the login button. So again, we're doing this dot actions. Where is our click? Now we have it here, right? So all it will do, the login page will go to the actions, here utils, and we'll call this code where Playwright executes the click. And we're still gonna have to provide a locator. So you remember here, selector or locator. So the Playwright expects here what to click on. And for that login button, it's going to be button type equals, and in double quotes, submit. Double quotes, and square brackets. All right, great. One thing that I want to add, I prefer to manage the locators within methods. Like, if you need to update the locator to something else, you can do it right here. So let's say there's another ID, new ID, it was changed. But there are other ways how to do it. Some places will have your locators within the constructor for a particular page. So let's say username value or username locator equals username, right? Or say selector to be consistent. Some places will have it like this. So instead of having the text value here, you just have the variable, and this variable where you store the ID. That's one of the methods that you can use. In some other places, you might actually create a separate file or even a file per page with locators per page, and then you just import that file here. Again, page file with page locators that you import in, and then you use that file with the locators in your code. Whatever is easier for you, whatever is working better for your project, however you want to manage it. Okay, so we have the login, right? Now let's try and actually add this to our test and see how this whole construction works. So let's go to the test file. So we're going to import test and expect, just for future assertions, from @playwright test. Okay, and now we actually need to import the page inside. We will create a page manager class a little bit later when we'll have multiple pages. If you have one, right, you can just import it directly. But if you're gonna have multiple, yes, then it's easier to have a manager, especially if you have tens, right, 10 or 50 or however many pages you need to test. All right, so importing from pages, so it goes and imports this. Okay, so it goes into the pages, imports this inside our tests. Perfect. Let's create a describe block. So let's describe, and let's call it login tests. Now within the describe block, there's an error function here. Okay. And now we need to initialize this class into an object that we'll be using within the test. So we can say login. Say let login page is equal to new login page, and we need to pass here page parameter. All right, but we don't have a page yet, right? If we don't have a page, the page will get started here in the test. What is the page right now? For that, you want to actually create the page and initialize it. So you want to say, let's say test dot before each. So before each test run, we're going to create a page. Async. And again, we're taking the fixture from the Playwright. We're not going to do context. We're not going to do browser. We're going to go directly with the page, right? And here the arrow function. So inside, we just pass in our login page, and it will use this page. So it will create a page with before each block. Then it will pass it inside the login page here, and it will use this page within actions, and then actions will do whatever we need with the page itself. So like clicking, filling things out, everything is here now, right? So going from tests into login, using the same page that passed through the test into login, and that same page is also now used in actions. So it's kind of cascading, right, from one place to another. All right, so okay, we have object login page. Now we actually have to use it, right? So let's create a test. Let's call it login with valid credentials. All right. And what do we do here? Well, now we have login page, so we can say await login page dot, and what would be our way to get to the page? Here's a function called navigate, right? So we just say, oh, okay. So it doesn't see this. The value was assigned, but let is, okay, so here's the problem. There's a scope. So let is only scope within the block right here. So it doesn't see it. So what we need to do? Well, we need to declare this value outside of the describe. So let's say let login page. Now it becomes visible to the whole file. And over here, we assign it. So we don't declare, we just assign it here. And to make it available, we'll put here at the top. So you say login let page here at the top. And then you actually pass in here in before each block. Now you see it lighted up, it's available. So say dot, and let's call navigate, right? Okay. You don't even have to provide anything here. Why? Well, because it knows within the login page itself that's when you execute this function, that's exactly where it's going to go. So it's navigating to the login page. The next thing we want to do is login page dot login. That's the other function we created. And we need to pass two values here, right? So Tom Smith would be the username, and super secret password would be the password. So this will go back to our login page, grab this function, pass in username and password. Password comes here. Username comes here, line 15. Then password comes here. Then it click login button. That's it. Like the whole thing is now just one line. And whenever you need to use it in other tests, you just provide that one line and that's it. It's going to log in. We also gonna create an assertion, right? But for now, let's see if it works. So our entry point is with navigating to URL. So let's uncomment the navigation. And we want to update a couple things in the config. We want to comment in the project. I want to remove Firefox and WebKit, just have Chromium here. And within the use, we need to say that headless is equal to false. So we want to actually see execution. We're not going to execute in parallel. We don't want to see multiple tests running. We're just going to see one browser, one test running at a time for the ease of understanding what's happening. Retries, 1, okay, workers process, so only one worker, one execution at a time. Our test there is test, everything looks good. And let's do npx playwright test. So now this is already in POM. The start of it, the basics of it. Okay, here we are. So here's our playwright inspector. Step over. You see, this is our entry point. We are inside the common actions. This is our navigation, and it is paused. Then it's gonna go and call go to URL, right? But it's going to be coming from your test file. So from here, it will call navigate, right? After initializing the login page, calls navigate. Then navigation goes inside of navigate function within the login page. Then it says navigate and the link. And then it goes back to the common actions. And here's your navigate. The link is passed in and it goes to this URL. Right? Okay, let's go and call step over. Okay, navigate it. Now it found the username field. Next step, enter Tom Smith, password, entered, and now it's ready to log in. So we are at this step. And again, we're not going to have to type it again. It's working. The functions here is for login page is working. You can use it as many times as you want. All you need to do is to call this page and call the function login and provide username and password. What we did right here in the test. Okay, so next step, and that's it. We are done. Execution is completed. Test passed. All right, so now let's update our structure because we're going to start introducing more pages. So we do have a page manager. So I'm going to create new file. I'm going to call it POM. Probably like this, POM manager.js. Okay, so the whole idea behind it is just to import all of other pages and then export them and use only one class to initialize them all. So let's start with importing login page. Import login page, and it finds it right away from login page.js. And now we need to create a class that we will be exporting. So export default class POM manager. All right, and within it, again, we're creating a constructor that's going to accept the page, and this dot page will become the page passed on, and we will need to say this dot login page. So we're creating a new variable here, this dot login page, and we use this because it will be available to the whole file, right? Okay, so is equal to new login page, and we need to pass the page in. So the class login page is now initialized within the object, this login page, within the variable. And now what we can do in our test, so instead of importing a login page, we just import POM manager from POM manager.js. Here we initialize, actually, let's give it a short abbreviation. So we're going to say let PM for POM manager, and we're going to have this variable here. We're going to call it PM, and PM now is equal new POM manager, right? So we created an object PM that stores POM manager class, this blueprint, and within the class itself, we have the login page, and we will have other pages, right? So, but now everything is accessible through this PM. So what I can do, I can just say PM dot login page dot navigate, and now PM dot login page dot login. So we go through the PM, we go into POM manager, right? And then within the POM manager, there is a login page, and then this login page gets us to the login method within the login page. So kind of, it's a little bit hard to understand at first, but once you type it out multiple times, it becomes clear how it works, and it actually becomes a lot easier to manage than retyping the same code over and over again. Okay, so let's give it another run to make sure that everything looks good still. Okay, here is our page. Next step, we go to the URL, provide username, password, click on the login. All right, and we're logged in. Perfect. So I'm gonna remove the pause for now. Let's add some other things. So what happens when we log in? When we log in, we see a success message. Right, so let's make sure that we can say, hey, we are here in the secured area. Now, secure area is no longer login. It's going to be a new page. There could be a lot more things here that you could do, like click on logout. There could be another functionalities and things that you can interact with within the application at your work, right? But it is a new page now. We're not in login, we're in the secure. So we need to create that, right? So we're going to go to pages. We're going to say new file. I call it secure page with capital S, because it is a class here. Let's also import expect, because we're going to use it at some point to do assertions. And we want to, same thing how we did in the login page, we want to import common actions. Common actions here into secure page, because we're still going to use common actions as well. Export default class secure page. Very similar initialization here. So whatever we did was the login page, just a constructor and actions. So let's grab this. Constructor page actions. We don't need this locator. We can remove it. And what would be our method here? So we want to get the message displayed. So let's call it get message, right? That's going to be the first thing that we want to do. And get message will return await this dot actions. What do we have in actions to retrieve text? We have get text. So that's exactly what we're going to use here. Get text, and we just need to find the locator for this text. So ID is flash, so we're going to use that. Pass in ID flash. All right, perfect. And also, let's add an assertion for the text itself. Now, again, you can have assertion in the test case, and you can have an assertion in pages. Most of the time, it will be preferable to have it in the test case, but I will show you both. I do find it in certain cases that it's better to, or easier to have an assertion within the page itself for certain things where you just pass value through here, through your test, and then goes in. So you pass in the function and the value for the assertion here, and it goes into the page and it asserts it. All right, so let's call this function assert logged in message, and it will have to have a past message, right? The value that will be asserting. Now we need to say const message. So how do we get a message that we actually have on the page? How do we grab this? So we grab this using getMessage method. We just need to store it now in this value, in this variable. So to do that, I need to actually call the function. So I will say await this dot get message. Okay, so this function will get called within this function when it's called, and then the message will be stored inside, and then this message stored inside will be compared with the message that was passed into the function, and they should match for the assertion to be successful. So I'm going to say expect message, let's say to contain past message, like that. Okay, now we're going back to our test file, and we need to add this assertion. Let's do await PM dot. Okay, well, we can't. We don't have a page, secure page in our POM manager. We can't reach it, right? So first, we actually need to go to the POM manager, and same way how we imported login page, we just go and say import secure page from securepage.js, and we added to the constructor this dot secure page. So this is the variable name equals new secure page, and we pass in the page. Okay, now we're going to be able to reach the secure page in our test. So we don't need to initialize anything else. We don't need to import anything else here. Everything now is contained in this PM, right? All our pages. So I'll say PM dot secure page. And what is our function? Assert logged in message. Okay. And all we need to do is we need to pass along the text. Okay, so this text gets passed into here, and it compares this text with the text stored in message that comes from here by grabbing the locator and the value within that locator. All right, let's run it. Now we remove the pause, so it's just gonna run through it. And that's it. Text context is not a function. Okay, let's see what went wrong. Selector await this dot page text context. Okay, it's a typo. It should be text content. So Playwright doesn't have text context. It has text content method. Another way how we can execute this, remember we installed the plugin for Playwright for testing. So it found tests here and it has POM tests. You can just say show browser at the bottom on the settings and then run it. So it doesn't close the browser window when the execution is completed. Okay, here's the test. It finished. We're actually logged in. And all good. We have the page running with the before each. And it sits there waiting, not closing it. So what we want to do, we want to also close it. So async, same way, async page. Await page dot close. So this will close. This will run page before each test. This will close after each test. Let's give it a rerun. Okay, opened up and done. It's closed. So it's no longer pending. We don't have it hanging around, and we don't want to have it hanging around. Like if we have multiple tests and multiple browsers, you don't want to have it hanging around because it's going to impact your machine, your performance, your memory. All right, back to the terminal, cleared everything out. Good. So we have now an assertion. That assertion is stored within the secure page right here. So we get the message and then we also assert it. How can we directly assert it without going inside the page? And you can do that. Like that would be another option, right? So if you have all your objects and grabbing values and finding locators and managing locators within the pages, let's say you need to directly assert it. So directly in test, assert value in directly in test itself, right? So you can say const message. Now we will be using a call. So pm dot secure page dot get text, right? So we still have to grab the message. So we're going to be using get message here. So this message will be stored within this variable. And now all we need to do is just create the expect that we usually created. So expect message, and we just was playwrights to contain, and the message that we're asserting. So this one, right? But you see, it's a little bit longer. You still have to get the message that was already done here, was in the whole chain here, and then you assert it manually, right? So let's run it one more time. Okay, execute it and passed. So So essentially we assert the same message twice, but using like just a little bit different approach. Okay, great. So what about login with invalid credentials? So let's say test, and let's call it login with invalid credentials, right? Async arrow function, and here we do the same thing, right? We just gonna navigate to the page. We're gonna copy paste the login and password, and now instead of valid Tom Smith, we're gonna say invalid user, something that the system will not accept. What happens if we provide invalid user? So invalid user, and let's add the password. Login. There's user name invalid message. So we want to assert that. We don't have an assertion, so we can have assertion here, right? Just using the expect. We still have to find the message, grab the text, and then assert it. Or we can have everything, again, within the login page. Just the assertion contained here, right? And we just kind of verify. We provide value and call the functions from the test, and then the whole logic is here. So let's do that. So first we need to get error message, right? Async get error message. And here we will say return await this dot actions dot get text. So we're using that to grab the text. Let's inspect this. ID is flash, so I'm going to use that. Get text for the locator. Flash. Now we got the text, but we also create a function. We need to create a function that will assert that text, right? So sync assert error message, and we need to pass here expected message that will be coming from our test, right? And we need to store the message that we grabbed. So let's say const actual message is equal to await this dot get error message. So we're grabbing the message, storing it in actual message, and we're then doing expect the actual message, the one that we grabbed, should be, let's say again, to contain the one that will be passing through the test expected message. Okay, great. One thing that is left is to add it here after the invalid login. So all we need to do is await pm.login page and assert, right? Where is it? Assert error message. That's all. Error message, and we just need to grab the error message here and provide it. Okay, let's save it, and let's bring back our pause in the utils and run 2 test cases step by step. All right, Playwright test. All right, so here we are, Playwright inspector, step over, navigating to the URL. And first we ran through positive scenario. logged in and verifying you logged into a secure area. That is happening twice, actually. And then after each is closing the page, the one that we added. Okay, page is closed. And then new page is open for the next test. Because we have before each that initialize everything, right? Again, for each test. Okay, we go into the URL, typing in invalid user, typing in password, clicking login, and then validating that the username is invalid. Yep, and closing the page. That's it. 2 tests passed. We're looking good. If you want to see the report, we do npx playwright show report. And it will tell us in the details the tests that we ran, right? And all the steps. All right, perfect. So let's add one more page, so check boxes for good measure, and do a test on like clicking here and verifying things. All right, new file. Again, we create check boxes page.js. And here we need to also import. So I'm going to add expect here as well from Playwright. Same thing, we need to import the common actions that we were going to be using from utils, right? Okay, now we create the class. So export default class check boxes page, like that. Have a constructor where we pass page and this dot actions is equal new common actions that accepts page. All right, so now we need to navigate, right? And we're navigating to a different place. We're navigating to the checkboxes. So same thing how we're navigating here. We're calling that actions navigate. Just need to provide different link, a little bit different link. So we were navigating to login. Now we're navigating to checkboxes. Okay, perfect. The next one will be a sync checkbox. Okay, here I'm gonna use index because there are 2 checkboxes. And remember before we used Playwright locator, Playwright specific, right? Built-in, Playwright built-in, but this time we're just using the locator that we have in actions, right? So for that, I'll use a different locator. So this actions.click. And now we need to find, okay, look at the element. So there, you see there are 2 types, 2 checkboxes. How do I know which one? If they're the same and there's only type. So for that, again, we're using backticks here. I'll say input. Type is equal checkbox. Okay. Now this will error out because there are 2 checkboxes. The Playwright will say, hey, there are 2 elements, expected 1, found 2. So we can do nth of type. And here we need to provide index. So 0 will be the first one, and 1 will be the second. Make sure you put in the backticks. It's like shift left to number 1. So actually no shift. Yeah, just the key to the left to number 1, right? So like 1, 2, 3, and to the left you have this character. So this is like a backtick comment, and that will allow you to pass in the values inside of the text here. So like generate the string. So you'll be passing index of the checkbox to specifically click on the checkbox that you need to click on. All right, and here let's do an assertion. Assert checkbox. So we're gonna assert if the checkbox is checked. So again, we need to pass an index because we need to tell which one. Let's say return await this does dot actions, and in the actions we added is checked, right? So it goes and verifies if the checkbox is actually checked, right? So this actions is checked, and we provide the locator. So this one will click on it, and this one will assert if it's actually checked. And if it's checked, it will return true or false. It's actually not assert, but that will be is it checked? Because we're not doing the assertion, we just return true or false value here. Now we want to have a method that says assert checkbox. So now we will verify that it was actually checked. So we have index, say expected checked here. Let's say const is checked equal to, and we need to run this function to see if it is. Await this dot is checked, where we again pass the index, right? So this comes from here to here, and if we need to check again, we're passing index. And here's our actual assertion. Expect is checked, so this value that was stored, and could be true or false. To be what we pass through the test itself. To be. Okay, so it was a lot here, but essentially we navigate to the page, then we have an action to click on the checkbox, and we specify which one, the first or the second. Then we store it was in the element, if it's true or false, is it checked or not, and then we assert this value. So let's say we get true here, we can pass in true and assert it, or we can pass as false and assert it. So we can, this goes both ways. You can assert true, you can assert is checked, or you can assert that it is not checked. Okay, now let's add the checkboxes to the POM manager. So import checkboxes page, and then this dot checkbox page equals to new with a lower c, So it's the same name but with a lower character because it's for ease of readability. This is your variable that that creates an object based on this class here. Okay. All right. So now we go and create the actual test. So I'm going to minimize this describe block. Let's actually create one more describe block here. Test dot describe. Checkbox verification. Okay. So what do we need to do? Right? Or what I've been doing here. We still need to, for the new block, it's like a new file essentially. If you're gonna have a new file, this is gonna happen within the file. You still need to call the POM manager, right? And you still need to open close page. So we can just copy paste this. So before each test was in the describe block, we're getting the POM manager, and after each we're closing the page. Now test itself. So text test check and uncheck check boxes, right? I'm gonna say sync arrow function here. Okay. Here's the test. So first we're gonna do await PM dot checkboxes page. So I'm just gonna grab it from here. Checkboxes page, and then we do navigate, right? We don't provide link or anything. It knows where to navigate. It's provided right here. Okay, so it's gonna go to the page. Next thing, let's check this second checkbox. So this is 0 and this is 1. The first one is 0, the second is 1. So we say PM dot checkboxes page dot checkbox. Right, so we click on it and make sure it's checked, and then we pass the index. So the first one, and then we verify that it is true, right? So this assert checkbox. So that assert checkbox, which one? First one should be set to true, and let's run it. So I'm gonna do test.only for this. So we run only this test. We're still gonna go step by step because there's a pause. All right, let me clear the console. Let's execute it. No, not report. npx playwright test. Okay, so here's our inspector. Let's do it step by step. Step over, navigates to the checkboxes, clicks on it, and then verifies it. So CSS based, the one that we used, nth of type, matches every element that is nth child in the same type. And it is using the number that you provide. So NTH of type 2 will select the second element of the sibling. So literally first and second, right? But then if you use Playwright based locator, for example, the one that we used before, get by role checkbox, then we provided NTH that comes with the Playwright here. Now this NTH returns located to the end matching frame and it's 0 based. So NTH 0 selects the first frame. So have to be aware of things like that. I mean, minor details, but yeah, you can start like thinking, okay, why is it not working as I expect it to work? Let's get back to our POM. Let's get back to our tests. So if we want to interact with the first one, we need to click on 1. If we use CSS and TH based, so this one NTH of type. So we need to click on the first one if we interact with first one, and we need to click on the second if we interact with the second. Now, let me get... So by default, the first one is not checked, and we will check it, and we will verify that it is checked. And the second one is checked by default, and we click on it, it will uncheck it. Right? And then we will verify that it is unchecked. Okay, so we're gonna copy the whole thing here, just whatever we did for the steps for this test case. But the only thing that I'm gonna do, second checkbox, assert, and now it should be false. And let's give it a run. Okay, it is. Oh no, not here. No, stop. Okay, so because we moved to the Playwright root directory, we need to move back into the POM example. Okay. It started executing all of the tests. We don't want that. You want to execute from the POM example, from here, that we built in, so it goes only into this tests, right? Tests within the POM example. All right, one test here. Good. Paused. Let's go and see how everything works. Step over. Go to URL. Okay, first clicks on the first one and then verifies that it is checked. Then goes to the second one, clicks on it, unchecks it, verifies that it is unchecked, and closes the page. Perfect. That is good. All right, I can remove dot only. Let me remove the pause from utils. Okay. So comment it out. And in the config inside POM examples, I'm gonna say headless true. So it's gonna execute really fast. And let's run it. So we should have total of 3 scenarios, 3 tests. Valid login, invalid login, and checkboxes. All 3 passed. We can see the report if we want. Right. So valid credentials, good. Invalid, good. And the checkbox. First we checked the first one and verified that it's true, and then we unchecked the second and verified that it is unchecked, that it is false, right? Okay, so to summarize everything up, what did we do? So instead of having to write all of the testing and everything in here, we separated each page in its own object. Within the page, we have crucial to the page scenarios like checking, unchecking, verifying fields, only related to that particular page. Then we grouped everything in POM Manager, right? That's where all the pages are now stored, kind of, to or reached from POM Manager. And we have a common actions as our utils object, and then common actions are used by checkboxes, by login, and by secure page, by all of the pages, right? That's why the common actions. You don't want to define them every time in each page because it's going to be, very redundant. And now we have a pretty nice framework with a page object model that you can use for Playwright. All right, so what I'm gonna do, I will say I have to add it to Git, right? So if you go to Git and you search for alexusadays, you see there are two users. I don't know who's this one, but Alex, you say without the one. There's Playwright QA automation repository with all of its code stored inside. And we did it in the previous lesson, right? So I'm gonna do a git add dot. So that's gonna add all of the changes. And I'm gonna say git commit with the message added POM and do a git push. All right, now the GitHub, if you refresh this, there is now POM example available with the framework for page object model for the Playwright that we worked on today. Okay, so this was alexusadays. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much and bye-bye.